This is That One Audition with Alyshia Ochse.
I did just go into the room.
Congratulations.
That's what I was coming from.
Holy shit.
Yeah. And she was like, how are you? I'm like, this is weird. What are we doing? So nice to see you. We can talk about it. You want to tell me anything? Do you want to see me do something else?
Yeah.
Should we have a party?
Should we do our nails? Should we get lunch?
Should we do our nails?
Yeah.
Yeah. Are you guys having a lunch later? Should I stay? Should I stay for the rest of everybody else? I'll be here.
I would just love to see people come in and come out. That is honestly all that I want is human connection.
You know what's so funny is I sat in the waiting room with everybody too, and I was like, oh my God, I want to see her do it. Oh, I want to see her, Heather. What did you do? What was your Heather? So I think that's what's so fun about this show is we get to like peek into how you're auditioning now, how you were auditioning before in a realm in which like we don't really get to express. So I can't believe how long you've been working first when we start there. So I'm going to let you share which audition story that you want to go to first.
Oh man. The funny thing, I was actually racking my brain about this because I feel like I've had so many different ones that have shaped not only my audition experience, but my career, the good, the bad, and the ugly. So I started in New York. I went to Boston University's acting conservatory, and it was amazing and wonderful. But I did feel we only had one audition class at the very end, our last year, and it was half a semester. And also, it was with a teacher that we all knew really, and we were all like deciding who would be cast off of, like the students were, it was so odd and not giving, it at least didn't give me an accurate representation or experience of what this crazy experience would be like. And so one of my first auditions, actually, I can't even remember what I was auditioning for. I think it might have been like Pretty Little, no, it wasn't Pretty Little Liars. I think it was a CW medical show that I don't think ever went, but I showed up, my dad's a doctor. And so I was like, oh, I got this. So I didn't wear any makeup. I showed up with my hair like in a messy bun, wearing like jeans and a t-shirt, looking completely like a medical resident. And the casting director took one look at me. She had me read once. And then she looked at me and she said, go home, curl your hair, put on makeup and come back. And so that was such an informative, I was so embarrassed, but also I was like, oh, this is the part of this that I need practice at is curating the film
the genre
version
in the studio.
Yeah, the genre in the studio and understanding the assignment a little bit because I think I was so used to being in conservatory and rolling around in sweats and just being like disgusting, but then doing really good work. And it blew my mind that wasn't what this was all about. And the more that I've auditioned and the longer I've been in this business, the more that I realize that so much of that makes such a huge difference, but also you can still do all of those things and do the amazing work and you still won't necessarily get the job. And that was a really hard, it still is. I say this because I am actively practicing it every day. It's a really hard pill for me to swallow because I think I have a very I'm a huge people pleaser, and I also like to think that good work, like
yes,
win.
People pleasers are like if I play by the rules and I do everything exactly
100%.
as you want it, then that should equate to like I get that, right? Like we get we get it.
It's like you told me, you gave me the textbook and I answered all of the questions correctly and I did it quietly and very politely. And so now can I have my prize, please?
Yes, I love my prize. Thank you. But I also I think it's interesting, like you said, going from college or going from studying and rolling around and just learning about craft to then stepping into learning about the business where it's like that audition would work now for the pit.
Yeah.
But it didn't work for the CW because everybody's got to be pretty. Of course you went to medical school and you were pretty. Of course you're going to fight zombies and vampires, but you have to be pretty. Like you have to be, your hair has to be in place. It's a visual medium. But that's one of the things that I think takes some time to learn, even if you're going and studying.
Yes.
When did you graduate? What year did you leave Boston?
I graduated in 2009. Yeah.
Okay, because life gets going at like 2016. I love you start working fairly quickly.
I did. I was really lucky. I also moved to New York and I was like, I'm only doing theater because that is the true artist form. And then I
agree.
But I also now I love film and I love the experience of TV and movies and this, not only the genres you can jump into, but also the actual medium of it. I love the collaborative nature of film. And it's one of the things that I actually miss so much in the ways that a lot of auditions happen nowadays is I loved going in the room because I loved the feeling of, oh, you're going to give me a note and I'm going to change something I'm doing. And there's kinetic energy and we're feeding off of each other in there. It's not just me in a vacuum creating something that I hope will resonate with you. And I've found some ways to try to shake that version of it up. But I loved collaborating. But when I moved to New York, I was like die hard theater girly.
So what's the first project that changes your mind, or at what point do you pivot and say, I would really love to knock on the door of television and film?
Oh man, I think I was a frog in boiling water. Like it happened slowly over time. And I just started working more in film and TV. And also, I was in New York at a time, and I think this might be true, that in order to do a certain level of projects, it seemed as though either you had to go to grad school or you had to be on a TV show. And so it was this, oh, if I want to play Hedda Gabler, maybe I should invest more time in these CW auditions. But I will always remember I've worked with coaches my entire career, and I really love working with coaches. I love school. I love learning, but I also love being pushed. And again, that collaborative experience, even in a coaching session of throwing paint against the wall and seeing what sticks. And so I have a wonderful coach who I've worked with for almost my entire career. His name is Ted Silbersky. He's a genius. And I will always remember, because I don't remember what audition it was, but I had a series of auditions for film and TV that I didn't get. And the feedback was, she's too theatrical. And so I went to him and I said, I need you to help me crack this because I don't like, just want to understand what the difference, it will still let me be me and do the things that I feel like I love doing in the ways I love exploring character, but clearly I'm not understanding the scale that I need to work at. And he picked 3 different characters, and I wish I could remember what they were. And we just drilled them and we just worked on it and we filmed it and watched it back. And this was before really at the time of self-tapes. But he's such a smart man, and he's all about kind of everything you need to know is in the text, which is a very theater forward way of coming at things. And sometimes is a little tricky when you get like a guest star role or something that there's not as much meat there, looking for all of those clues and then filling in the gaps when you need to. And it really changed the way that I approached things. And the funny thing is, I think that right now I'm actually going through I'll have to fill you in at a later date, but I feel like I'm going through another kind of evolution of the way that I'm thinking about not only auditions, but also how I want to approach acting, and especially on film, in the way that feels satisfying for me. But I'll always love Ted for that. And the funny thing was with Ted, but also with auditions, I was a nanny when I lived in New York, and I would bring children with me to my auditions. I would like find another girl in the waiting room who would watch them for 15 minutes while I was in there. And I would bring the kids to my coaching because I had horse blinders on. I was determined, which in some ways is very admirable and in some ways is totally insane. And
you do what you got to do.
You do what you got to do.
As a parent, going to audition with my child is so stressful. If it's not my child, maybe it's not as stressful because it's a job. So was it stressful having them there?
It was stressful. It was stressful only because there was only one time that I had to ask a random person to watch. It was normally I would have a friend come meet me. And so I think it was stressful, but also life in New York was just so stressful. And I didn't do it that many times. It was really only when it was either I'm going to do it this way or I'm not going to get to audition.
Or you're not going to get to, and did you book any of those where you had fake children with you?
I did. The one I remember, which I didn't actually end up doing because I thought they wanted me to cut all my hair off and I didn't want to do it, was like a Trojan condom commercial, which was so funny because I literally brought a baby into the room with me and they thought it was so funny. And I was like, this is a PSA for why people should use your product. But they wanted to cut my hair off. And I was like, I'm not going to do that Trojan condom commercial.
But I love use life, use what you know.
Use what you
Probably
know.
what. Okay, I'm going to be remiss because I'm going to get all of these questions because I do ask about process or I do
Please
ask
do.
how things change. You just said I'm going to tell you later about what I'm digging into, but because you have been working since early 2000s and like really in a wide range from television to film now,
Yeah.
what is it that you're changing about your process that you're seeking out to do differently in film?
I think that a big thing for me is the transition to self-tapes was a really hard transition because I love, like I said earlier, I love going in the room. And I actually loved when it was more of a hybrid. Because then when I got to self-tape, it felt like this luxurious treat that I could really work on it and get in there and spend 4 hours making one scene perfect. But the more that it became only that, the more I became a horrific echo chamber for my own insecurities. So I think that right now, I'm trying to infuse more joy into it and just find a little more creativity. For those of you who are watching this on YouTube, this is my house and there's lots of wooden beams and things like that. And I auditioned for something recently that felt like this backdrop would be appropriate and not distracting and give more weight and depth to the character in the scene and make it feel like you're really there. But there are a lot of times I just use a backdrop. I change up who my reader is based off of what I think it will be. I work with Ted. I work with different coaches. I explore and see, so I never feel like I get stuck.
Or stale.
Yeah, or stale. But I think also the big thing I'm a very emotive person in life, and I'm also quite an emotive actor, which is something that people either love or they don't love. And I think that film for a while has been going in a less emotive trajectory. I'll make these statements. They are probably, who knows if anyone agrees with me, but I've been more curious about that. And so I worked with someone once who was like, the emotions are just sweat. The emotions are what happened because of the scene. It's not the scene. The scene is not the emotions. And I think that I don't know if I'm doing that differently, but I feel like that's resonating with me in a new way. And so I'm very curious about that because it is a medium that's so close and that can smell any false note, just trusting more.
All of that. It sounds to me that work. You said his name was Ted, your coach?
Ted Silbersky.
I feel like that analysis started when you were doing the transition from theater into that. What were some of the things that you guys were pinpointing that you were able to lock in on? That sounds like now that's what your anchor points are.
Yeah.
Or it could also be the insecurity because if you can lock in on certain things, you're like, I'll do it again. I'll do it
again and again forever. Again, text is a huge thing for him. It's not an analogy. He broke it down for me in a way that I still remember that was so helpful, which is that on stage, you and the audience are participating in an agreed upon falsehood. There is a fourth wall that everyone is agreeing is there, even though it's not. We are, unless there are direct address, there's millions of people sitting, or maybe not millions. There are anywhere between 20 to thousands of people sitting and looking at you. You have to project. You may have a cup of coffee that is supposed to be warm, but it's actually filled with cold water, and you need to endow the space and endow your circumstances and endow your props. Whereas in film and TV, because the camera is so close, if you endow anything, it reads as falsehood.
Like indicating.
Yeah, it feels like indicating, even though it may be true. And it doesn't mean things can't be big, and it doesn't mean things can't be theatrical. I think some of my favorite performances in film are big and theatrical and dramatic, but they're not layering anything else on top of it. And that stripping down, I love, but it's also incredibly vulnerable and incredibly scary.
Yes. So you're somewhat of an anomaly. I think a lot of actors have a hard time emoting. I shouldn't say that. I think it's split down the middle. Some actors are the emotion is so visceral and it's so close, right? So if you're somebody that is always bubbling for you, and then you're trying to tame it down, let's say, for this experiment for film, That feels vulnerable to almost stay. How are you manipulating or working with your instrument to not? Because also, when people try not to cry, they try not to be emotional. What happens? They become more
Yeah.
emotional. What you
Yeah.
resist persists. So, are you noticing that in the work that you're doing now? Is it a challenge to bring that down?
It is. It's almost like tuning an instrument, I think, because it will feel hard at first, but then once I find the right groove, it gets in there a little more. And it does have to do a lot, I think, with me trusting myself and trusting that the thought that I'm thinking in my brain is being portrayed just by me thinking it because my face is going to do a thing. That it's if I do my homework and if I really have this foundation, that something will be happening. And that is interesting enough because I have so, as we all do, we have our tricks, we have our bells and whistles, we have the things that you did when you were 5 or you did in conservatory and everyone stood up and clapped and you felt brilliant. And I, those are amazing and those things get us to a certain point and those things got me very far. But then after a point, it can become a crutch and it can
Yeah.
become something that's not evolving you further. The other thing I'll say that I've started doing recently is I'm working with a friend from college who's a director. She's out of New York, and we do Zoom sessions of Michael Chekhov work, which is gestural work. I don't know if I'm sure there are people who are listening to this who have heard of it and people who haven't, but it's a way of breaking down an actor's objective or an action, any verb, and finding a physicality to it. So that the idea is that before you start the scene, you do this small physicality and then it's living in your body. And so you're not trying to show that you're doing, you're not trying to show that you're seducing or show that you're punching or show that you're ripping. You just, it's living in your body. And so there's more trust that comes with that. And it's a more full body experience because I can get super heady.
Yes, I do. I'm so glad you shared this and you went into depth. I do that with dream work. I'll have
Oh,
dream
amazing.
symbolism and then I'll bring that into the text and bring that emotion with a movement because it
Mhm.
does, it puts it in your body. I think also when you've been working for so long too, I'm so glad that we started. I never know where these are going to start, but we
Yeah.
started in a place of when you've been working for a while, understanding that you have to you have to evolve as an artist. You have to, otherwise it is going to become really stale. It doesn't
Yeah.
matter. The auditions, getting on set, going from movie to movie, what's going to be the thing of your process that allows you to investigate again and be curious
Yeah.
again?
My therapist calls them winning strategies. Not even my actor, just like my therapist, the things that worked for you for a long time. And I think also because I'm a totally different human being than I was 4 years ago, 10 years ago. And the experiences I've had on set have both made me flourish as an actor, and some have been really difficult and hard and shaken my confidence, and some of them have changed the way I've looked at things. And so the belief that I think I had for a long time of like, well, I figured out my process and this is how I have to do it, just wasn't working anymore.
Was there any specific project or person that you witnessed that allowed you to change which projects that brought
Oh,
in different process? Yep.
all of them kind of. Happy Death Day was a really important one for me because Chris Landon, who directed that, just I made that was a self-tape audition before the days
I
of
wanted to ask.
self-tape. I
Because
auditioned,
2016, because the movie came out in 2017, but sometimes
yes.
that could even be way early. Could have done it 3 years before that. I
Well,
didn't.
no, this one was that's what happened with Valley Girl. I auditioned for Valley Girl for a year and a half, almost 2 years. I made a music video. I did a whole song and dance to get
I
that
wanted to
job.
ask about that, so you have to follow up
I will
this
definitely
one
follow
with
up.
that one because I was like, how does all of a sudden it's beautiful,
Oh, thank you.
awesome,
It was
exhilarating
It was
piece of
really
work?
fun. But yeah, Happy Death Day was really, I was shooting a movie in Atlanta and I couldn't even get, my co-star was working the day I needed to make the tape. So I FaceTimed with my friend on an iPad and then recorded with my computer. So I was doing 2 devices and I didn't have a ring light. I didn't have anything because it was before this was something that was
Mhm.
expected of everyone. And I just loved the character, and I'm pretty sure I had worked with Ted on it. And then Chris and I had a FaceTime, and just I don't even think we read the scenes. We just talked and we really understood each other. And he's a pretty magical human being in general, but as a director, because he really, I feel like he locks into what makes each individual actor tick. And he's really good at bringing out the beauty of each person and the beauty of each performer. And he just let me let my freak flag fly. And that was also such a big part of that movie was how
She comes undone.
he comes fully undone.
What a great, I mean, again, it's a Jason Blum, so audience
Mhm.
know it's a Jason Blum produced horror film, but the concept of it is great. So it's her death day over and over again until she finds her killer. So you're
Yeah.
deja vu. So you can escalate to extremes.
Yeah.
What a joy. And then
It
a
really was.
$4 million picture makes $125 million. Like
Yes.
everybody in their careers, let me find one of those. How do I find one of
Yeah.
those?
And that, I have to say that one so that everyone knows, when I booked that job, no one thought that's what that was going to do.
None.
No one thought that. We had talked about that, like my team was like, oh, it'll be cute for you to go do a horror movie. That's nice. Like
That's
we
what I wanted
thought,
to ask. Because at that point, were you on Mary and Jane? Were you shooting Mary and Jane at the time that you got
no,
this?
I was shooting a movie called Forever My Girl. But, and while I was on Happy Death Day, it like is when I booked Valley. Like it was a really lovely time where a lot of different things were coming
2016 was
together.
like bam, bam. I
It was a
wanted to
great
know what
year.
happened that year before or what happened in that year where I was like, okay, I don't know how you get all this done in one year.
I don't know either. I think part of it was is that I was working a lot. And so my instrument was very awake and alive. I had gone straight from doing I did La La Land in 2015, I think,
And I
or
wanted to know that audition
2014.
too. Was that
That
song
was
and
wild.
dance?
It was first two just like scene auditions, and then we had a dance call with all of the girls together, and Mandy Moore and Emma Stone came in halfway through, and all of us were like, ah, like just vibrating. And I'm a fine dancer. I'm not brilliant by any. I can move. I'm an actor who can move. I'm an actor who can sing and move sometimes. And but I just knew I was like, I just have to look as confident as humanly possible. So I did, even when I got things wrong, because it was all about what my face was doing, not necessarily about what my body was doing.
Pay attention up here, pay attention up here.
Yeah, look at this. Look how beautiful and confident and sassy
Yes.
I look. I'm telling a whole story up here. It doesn't matter if I'm stepping to the left instead of the right. But that one was that was probably the fanciest thing I had
I mean,
auditioned for and definitely booked. And we shot that whole sequence we shot as a oneer, which was really fun. And we got to rehearse for a month for it. Like it was just a really amazing experience. But I went straight from shooting that to shooting an indie called Tater Tot and Patton with my dear friend Andrew, who is a director that had seen me in something at
ah,
BU and then reached out and we became really close. And that was the complete opposite. It was a 17-day shoot on a ranch in South Dakota. And we were like living
for
there and it was
$2.
so
Yep.
dreamy and so magical. And then I did Mary and Jane. And then I went and did Forever My Girl and then did Happy Death Day.
Great. Thank you for doing that because I think
Yeah.
sometimes it's good for the audience to also hear. There's the audition side of this, and there's like trying to make a mark, right?
Yeah.
I talk about this a lot on the podcast, development versus relevant. You're in a development stage, like you coming from theater. Okay, how do I adjust to this medium? Let me practice this. Let me get in there. And then you get one pretty notable. La La Land is a very notable project, and it
Yes.
doesn't matter the size of role that you're in. When that gets cast, your agents and managers turn around and use that as bait. That is like
Yes.
the best pitching tool that they have for the next year and a half
Yes.
till it comes out. So then it doesn't mean that your talent's there. You just now have a wider net of opportunity
Exactly.
and you were grabbing them. Like you were
I was
left and right.
definitely trying. And I also, my best friend is a casting director. And so I've had really interesting and insightful conversations with her about casting. And I actually have been fortunate to see this, not from her directly, but to talk to her about it and then see it. I know there are jobs I got because I did a good audition for something else. And I did not get that first job. I did not get the first job. I didn't get the second job. I didn't get the third job. But the casting director liked me and believed in me and wanted to put me in something. I I think that's something that, and also a lot of times you don't know how close you've gotten or the person that was a fan or the reason that they went with someone else. There's no way to know. And again, I've had a couple instances where that like the curtain was pulled back for me a little bit. I've been able to talk to my best friend about it quite a bit. And then also, I've recently started developing and producing more on things. So I've gotten to be on the other side of the table and watch the auditions. And a lot of times, my favorite, the person who I think is the most talented doesn't get the role. And which is insane. Again, to me, the person who's like, this isn't fair. But it's because the look isn't right or the energy, or there's just someone who comes in who just is that person instead of needing to act like them, even if they're less seasoned or it's so political. And I don't want to say that in a way that feels super discouraging, because I think every time I hear that, I get really discouraged. I mean it more that there are so many things outside of our control that if you can hone in on the things that you do have control over and the ways that you can feel like you are showing up authentically as your best self in that moment. Because listen, we all have days, but show up and just make fans. If that's your main goal, if it's not necessarily booking the job, but say I'm going to go in the room and I'm going to make a fan, then I think that 9 times out of 10, you will succeed in that goal. And
yes.
Every time back in the days of crazy pilot season when things felt overwhelming, which now we all like hunger and salivate for those days. But I just thought about every meeting as a drop in the bucket. And if you keep putting enough drops in the bucket, one day the bucket will overfill. You don't know when that's going to happen. No one knows when that's going to happen. You may hit a jackpot and it happens the first time you audition for something. It may take some time, but each one is important, and not to put stress on it, but more to be like each one is an opportunity to
a full opportunity,
make a fan.
And to go from, because I don't want people to be discouraged either. It is political, but if you're being authentic, then the opportunity will come. It's just a long game. It's a marathon, not a sprint. So then I want to hear about Valley Girl, because this is a remake.
Yes.
It's somebody who auditions a lot, or like you're going from project to project, probably coming up with new ideas on how to approach this, being so open. Did you know you could perform like this? Did you what from start to finish? Did you go and watch the 1983 one and inspire your choices off of that? I want to know all of it.
I actually didn't. A lot of times, for better or for worse, and sometimes it changes, but I try, if it's a remake of something, I try not to watch it because I don't want to just copy it, though then sometimes I'm like, but maybe I'd feel inspired. Like, it's many ways to think of it. But I grew up on movie musicals. I love them so much. I was so excited about when I heard about this, like Romeo and Juliet. But in the 80s, I was fully obsessed with 80s music, and still now, but at the time, like I was on a real kick for it. But I met the producers for the first time right after La La Land finished filming. And then I auditioned for it, and then I tested for it, and then did not get cast. Someone else got cast. And then that version of the project went away. And then about a year later, they asked me to audition again. I auditioned again, and I was like, this time I'm going to pull out all the stops because I don't want to wonder what if. And so my friends and I made a music video. And so I filmed myself lip syncing to Whitney Houston's I Want to Dance with Somebody. And like me and my, like the family I was living with, the mom was a choreographer and she helped me choreograph it. And then my friend Matt came over and wore a leather jacket and stood by a motorcycle looking sexy. Like, we just made this very ridiculous music video because it was the best thing I could think of that could maybe set me apart.
And I'd already done the audition.
I had already done the audition once. And so it was the kind of thing that I was like, I feel this way about auditions in sometimes a way that is unhealthy and that I have to be stopped by those who love me. But I'm like, if I can say that I did everything I could, then if I don't get it, at least I won't worry it was something on my end. And listen, that comes with a big disclaimer, because there are times that has been a very unchecked, that can be an incredibly unhealthy impulse in a situation and an industry where we have so little control. But I had so much fun making that video. I had the best time. And so I think that anytime you can be creative and think outside the box and send it, the worst that's going to happen is they won't watch it.
Worst.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Or the actual worst thing is that for some reason, you showing more creativity annoys someone. And so you don't get the role because of that. But then they're assholes and you don't want to be in their project anyway.
Then they're not the people that are actually looking for a puzzle solution. Like, I think when it's in story, it's not like you made a music video for a drama vampire movie.
Yeah.
Again, like it works so beautifully. I was so tickled by that. Like, just what a delight. How much fun. And I love
was
that
really
the
fun.
OG was like Nick Cage. If you go back and watch the trailer from it's so great.
He's so sexy in it. It's really phenomenal.
I get the Nick Cage when you go back to that time and era. For sure, for sure.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
The TV and film landscape, it's constantly changing, but traditional actor training has largely remained the same.
It's focused on a theater model whose main goal is to help you stretch the expression of your instrument. That's why you can have years of training,
From scene study classes to audition classes.
to even an MFA, and still not be able to book a 2-line co-star.
That's why we created the Bridge for Actors.
A collection of tech, craft, and business online courses to teach you the skills that you need to go from a student of acting
To a working actor.
I want to talk business.
Yes.
Okay. Why the name change?
A couple of reasons. I had 5 different people within the course of 2 weeks tell me I should change my name.
Okay.
And
so people know 2013. So you've done a couple of things, but not like we hadn't hit that 2016 stride yet.
Yeah, we hadn't hit the 2016 stride for a number of different reasons. The biggest one being that they were like, it's too long. It's just not quite, it's not sexy. And I was like, okay. But the funny thing is, at first I was like, no. And then the more that I was getting that feedback from agents, casting director, like a variety of different people, I thought about it. I looked through all of the family names that exist in my family. None of them felt quite right. And there was something about shortening it that felt still authentic, but then weirdly it became a stage name in a really wonderful way that there is now this slight separation between my personal life and my work life.
Yeah.
And it's not, I mean, listen, maybe it would have been even better to just fully change it because then there would have been this whole thing, but I'm also really lazy with paperwork and I don't want to do anything like that. But it made a difference. Not that I like turn into a different person when I go audition or go to set, but I'm Jessica Rothe there.
Yep.
And to my friends and family, it's almost like having a nickname. Like
Totally.
like only my best friend and my mom and my husband call me Jessie. Like very few other people do that. And not because I don't like it. I just usually go as Jess. But there is something almost about that my government name has become like a personal nickname more, and that I have this front-facing, more public persona. So I think it's great.
It works.
It works.
It works great. And it doesn't matter. I'm just always curious. There's been a couple other people that have come on the podcast and wanted to make a sharp change in their career, and they changed their name, and guess what happened? A sharp career change happened. So it is something that is worth noting and I think talking about as an actor.
Honestly, the thing more than my name change that was the sharp change in my career is when I went blonde. I swear to God. And I didn't even want to. It was for La La Land. They told me it was going to be highlights. I came out platinum and I cried. I went home and I cried. I had never dyed my hair before. I'd never done anything. And then I started working so much more.
What a trip.
It was crazy.
I mean, again, La La Land deserves so much. And who knew?
It truly does.
Who knew?
Yeah.
That's okay. Let's talk producing and development.
Yes.
So Gaslight? No.
I got to be an EP on Gaslight, but I came on later. And that was, I had less of a direct kind of involvement in that one.
What about Delilah? How did you get on that?
That was from a general meeting. That was from a meeting with Aaron Kaplan after Happy Death Day. And he asked me what kind of characters I liked. And I was like, I really like unreliable narrators. And I really like messy, very flawed female characters who are figuring their stuff out. And he was like, I have a script to send to you. If you like it, we'll just make it. And I was like, oh, okay. And he sent it to me. It was also because I think listeners should know there are times that people say that to you and they're lying and they're not, their idea of what they can accomplish does not necessarily match up with the actual ability to do it. But Aaron sent it to me. I loved it. It was originally written and created by Sharon Horgan and Aisling B. And it's such a beautiful script. And then I met Sharon and it was amazing. And then we picked a showrunner and kind of were off to the races. And then I got to go through the process of pitching a show, which I had never done before. I'd never been in those rooms. I had never experienced that. So I learned a lot because Sharon and Aaron and Kirker, who is our showrunner, have been in the industry for such a long time and are so accomplished and have such incredible credits under their belt. And with that one, as a producer, I definitely feel like I was a lot less assertive because I felt like it was my learning time. Like I was with these titans and I just wanted to learn everything I could learn. So I would go sit in on production meetings and do things like that, but I wasn't necessarily I would give thoughts, but I didn't know how to give notes yet on things. But right now I have a show I'm developing at HBO Max based off of a short story that I bought the rights for called Your Second Wife. And we've been developing that.
Where'd you see the short story? Where'd you find the short story?
It was sent to me by my agent, but I also had expressed interest in their lit department. And they sent it to me and they were like, what do you like? And I was like, dark, fucked up women who are unreliable. So this story got sent to me, which is about a woman who dresses up as men's dead wives so they can go on one last date with them. But we've been developing it for almost 4 years. And we almost had it set up and then it fell apart and then it came back together, which honestly is a bit of a trajectory in my career because Valley Girl, La La Land, and Happy Death Day all had been in pre-production for 5+ years. Happy Death Day, I think, was almost made, like it took 11 years for that one to get made. La La Land, I think, was maybe 7. Valley Girl was the same. And that's just such a like right time, right place thing for me that I happened to be at the right age in the right place in my career to audition for those things and knowing what I knew at the time. But with Second Wife, we finally found the team that it seems like it will go, but knock on wood. But I feel much more confident giving notes and giving feedback and more confident in my space at the table, I think.
I think that's part of what this is, how long it takes. And once you understand one side of the business, I think it drastically changes also how you show up in front of camera.
Yes.
And I'm curious with Second Wife taking time to develop. I've got a show in development. It's been 10 years. It's 10 year right now. And how many times it's come together and fallen apart and reshaped and reorganized. But it's allowed you to continue to really work and still some of the great television projects. So how has that changed though auditioning for you? I've got 2 I want to ask about and I want to see if you want to choose which one.
Oh,
because I know a little backstory. Virgin River, which is a very sought after role. Months and months they took to find this, who was going to possibly have a spinoff or a prequel. That one or Pulse. But I'm really curious about Virgin River. I'm just going to say.
I will tell you the thing, I can do a little bit of a crossover episode because they were happening at the same time.
Great. I would love that because I think once you're in development and stuff and you're understanding so much of this side, how does that change how you're showing up as the actor? Only the actor.
Pulse and Virgin River were 2 of my first in-person auditions since COVID. And they were like in the same month, which was pretty awesome and intense. And I think also the reason probably that I booked both of them because I do think I'm better in a room. Virgin River was such an interesting one because there was so much secrecy isn't quite the right word, but there was a lot of vagueness. Is that word around it because for the people who don't know, it's a role that was auditioning that was technically a recurring guest star in the current season of Virgin River, but in the past and with a chance to spin off and become its own show. And so it's not like there was a pilot script for this character. It was more the backstory of and the lore of the show that exists. And that was actually really amazing for me because there were so many resources to draw from because I understood what the tone of the show was and I understood what they were looking for. And I was incredibly lucky to get to talk to our showrunner before my audition.
How'd you get that? Did you ask?
I think that my agents got that for me, but I have asked in the past or to ask to talk to the casting director. I think it never hurts to ask, or if you can't talk to them, if you have a specific question that you feel like will help you tap in. I've also just asked my team before, is there anything that they learned from the people that they've seen that they want to relay? Is there anything are they having trouble finding this girl? If they are, what's the trap people are falling into? What is the additional information you can give me about this? Because then sometimes they come back with something. And I think that I've gone through times where I've assumed if they want to tell me something, they'll tell me, but sometimes they don't think to do it. So just ask. No one's feelings will get hurt. It will be fine.
Yeah. And if you don't get it, you're in the same position.
Exactly.
Again,
Exactly.
So you got some information from Sean.
I got some information from Sean, and he was also just so kind and excited, and he made me more excited about the job. My first audition was a Zoom audition with casting and with Sean. And
like you said earlier, you learned some different things from being on the other side, especially even on a Zoom. What were you able to bring in from you going from like development and producing side to stepping into like the Zoom situation?
Oh, that's such a good question. I wish that I had thought about it more. I actually haven't Zoom auditioned people yet. So that is my one thing that I'll say. But I think such a selling point is you just want to be yourself, but also be a kind, nice person in the room. Because I think that goes a really long way. I've been on the other end of so many things where they're like, oh, they're great, but I've heard they're an asshole. I don't want to work with them. And so I think show them what it would be like to work with you. And if that means that the way you like to work is get in there and do the scene and see if they have thoughts. If it's that you have questions and you like to be inquisitive, always respect people's time and always make sure you're not overstaying your welcome. Because I think I used to do that I would be like, okay, if I come in with 3 really good questions and they're going to know I really care, but then I would ask questions I knew the answer to just to ask them. It's like, even if you want validation of this is what I was thinking, is that right? Okay, cool, let's go. Or my favorite thing to do right now is I don't have any questions, but let's play. And if something comes up, let me know. Open the door, let them know that you're open to it. Because the people on the other side of the table they're hoping you're going to solve their problem too. They want you to be the right answer. But yeah, I just try to
ease the meeting.
Ease the meeting, and for myself, because I think the weird thing about Zoom that used to happen in rooms, but you're like sitting there waiting for the window to pop up and then just waiting, and then you get the note that it's going to be 5 minutes, and you're like, oh, do I go pee? Or do I stay here? Like, what do I do? And so I'm trying to get better at giving myself ample time, but also if I need to go pee, I
did that the other day. An hour and 11 minutes I'd been waiting. And then I was like, typing in, and I was like, I'm going to go to the restroom. And they popped up and I was like, hey, I was just emailing you. I have to go to the bathroom. And then I made them wait. I was like, I've been waiting, but that's, it is a whole different way of working. So when Sean and everybody comes on for this Zoom, do you guys just chat about it, or did you guys actually work the scenes?
We worked the scenes. We chatted a little, but because I had gotten to talk to him before, I think there might have been one more question that I had after talking to him that we discussed, but we did both of the scenes. We did both of them twice. It was a very kind of like painless audition. And then there were 2 chemistry reads because they did mix and matching. And so they did a mix and match round with me and 2 other girls and 3 guys. Or maybe there were more. There might have been more people that time. I just didn't see them because they tried to stagger us a bit. And then they didn't feel like they found the pair that they wanted. So then we did another mix and match round a few weeks later. And in the interim was when the Pulse stuff was happening as well, which was very fun.
Was Pulse, I love that, like a Miami trauma medical versus this 1970s, very ethereal. We just want to have chemistry and everybody loves Virgin River. Night and day.
Yeah, it was truly night and day. And again, my dad's a doc, so I had a little insight into that kind of world. But that was a really nice one too, because I got to go in person and meet Carlton and Zoe. And like I love that casting office. And they really tried to make it easy, which was great because that was actually the first one in person I had done in a long time. And I was so nervous.
Okay, I gotta ask two questions then.
Yes.
One, since you started with a medical drama, CW, you went with the top knot and you just went in that way. For this one, now that we're in 2025, 2024, when you're probably auditioning, how did you approach it?
I split the difference. Because I knew it wasn't like, though the funny thing is then my character in Pulse ends up being, she is a little bit more of a put together like Miami girl. And so it is a little more airbrushed than I would have done, but I wore makeup, I curled my hair, but then I pulled it back. And I wore a nice t-shirt, but that was like scrub adjacent, like blue. Yeah, that kind of thing.
Hinting at the essence.
Just a gentle hint, because I think that a gentle hint always feels nice. I'm gonna do some subconscious, I'm gonna inception you. I'm gonna inception myself as this character into your brain.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so then nerves. Now, again, I think there's two different muscles that are constantly at play. Your on-set muscle is really strong.
Yeah.
And then we go into COVID. So then you're getting to make self-tapes. So you're still having fun. But going back in person, it's just a different muscle that's getting twitched. What do you do for nerves?
Oh, I try a lot of different things. I meditate. I have an emergency stash of Xanax that I will take like the tiniest amount because I don't want to numb myself. And I do think a little bit of nerves is good because it keeps you on your toes and you listen. It's just when the nerves are there in a way that you stop listening that I think it becomes a problem. Like when my whole body is vibrating, I'll get out of the car, I'll go for a walk. Again, the physical work that I'm doing is something that I'm trying to use to help me calm those nerves because it feels like then I'm going to ground myself in something. And I think people have different, like I've heard of people who will sit and like name things they see out loud or really feel the texture of the chair underneath and try to describe it to yourself, even if it's in your head. I think, yeah, there are so many different ways to calm nerves and each person's nervous system is so different. Like recently I stopped drinking coffee because I realized that my nervous system can't deal with that. And is it going to help me be a better auditioner? Maybe. I don't know. I haven't gotten to test it yet, but we'll see.
We'll see.
Yeah.
Okay, so walking into Pulse, you walk into Pulse. How does that audition feel any different to you since it's obviously in person, but coming from like the development producer brain again? And also, you've got a nice show on the back burner, which is kind of great.
Yeah, I think that one I got more nervous because it was jargony, like the language of it. Because when it's emotion based, that's again, I'm an emotive baby. That's my sweet spot. But when it's jargony, I think I can get in my head. And then if it's not, the words aren't there that day, it feels like I short circuit a little bit. But they were so kind and wanted to work on the scenes. And I think that for me, that's one of I like to think that's a strong suit of mine is like when I get to take adjustments because also then I have to take a breath. I have to land in the room in a different way because I can't be on autopilot. If I am, then I'm not taking the note. But yeah, it was a very different vibe and a very different feeling and asked a different kind of muscle.
Yes. And do you have any approaches to jargon that you like to pick up to throw down? Because now you've done the show, so you've spent months doing the jargon.
I think for me, it's repetition and like recording it if I need to or saying the words over and over again. I'm also slightly dyslexic. So the night we were over at a friend's house and I was trying to, I can't even remember what it was. I was looking up something on Wikipedia and the word was Guatemalan. And I was like, Guatemala, and some of this was exhaustion, but some of it's also that I can't phonetically sound things out. And so if I know it's an audition that has words that if I learn the word the wrong way, I'm going to be hosed. So I go in, I phonetically figure it out, I record it for myself, say it like 17 million times. But just so it feels more like second nature, especially when it's medical or legalese jargon or political stuff. Anything that's walk and talkie, just say it a million times until you can't say it again.
Repetition's where
Yeah.
it's at. And speaking of repetition, Happy Day Death, I want to let the audience know you got a second one.
Yes.
That did great. And did I read the rumor correctly that there will be a third?
You read the rumor correctly that the third is moving forward finally for the first time. And we don't have like many specifics, but it's so exciting because I love Chris so much. I love working with him so much. And I love Blumhouse. And that character is such an important person to me and part of myself. And I would love to do her justice and finish her journey. And Chris has known the structure for the third one for a really long time. So I think that once we get cooking with gas, hopefully we'll be off to the races.
Off to the races.
Yeah.
And then when do we know if the prequel will happen for Virgin River?
I don't know. I'm still waiting. I'm actually going at the end of this month to film another flashback, which is very exciting. So we get to see Sarah again, who is just she's such a woman ahead of her time. And I also got to wear crazy mermaid hair extensions during that shoot, which was, I felt like protest Barbie. Like I just felt like the coolest 70s girl. But yeah, I think they're trying to figure it out soon. It's, as we know, so much is now based off of streaming numbers and the algorithm and so many things outside of
political. Political and
political.
capitalism.
Yes. Yeah. But also political and capitalism, but also what people want. I think it's really fascinating the things that are popping right now and the things that aren't. And some of them are very predictable and some of them aren't. And I think it's the beauty of art is you can play the algorithm perfectly and people may hate it, or you can do something new and fresh and inventive. And if it strikes at just the right time, it will be the next everything everywhere all at once. But if it doesn't, then it will play at Sundance and be beautiful, but no one will see it. Like no
one will see it.
It's that crazy, beautiful, mercurial, ephemeral, thing that we do is that it's so, you can't quite grab it.
Yeah.
We're always chasing.
Makes us keep chasing. Yes.
I know.
Yes. Okay. Last question.
Yes.
Because you've done so many incredible dynamic films. And it's interesting that you start your career being like, I just want to be on the stage.
Yeah.
What's the one project that you would recommend people to go watch that not a lot of people have seen that you've done?
Oh man. I think if you haven't seen Happy Death Day, that's the one that I just love that movie so much. But if you have and you're looking for something more off the beaten path, there's a movie called Tater Tot and Patton, which was the movie I talked about that I did in South Dakota. And that one just holds such a special place in my heart. And it's just like a lovely two-hander. And we really got to get in and get our hands dirty. And it's me and this wonderful Boston actor, Bates Wilder, who we just had such a ball together. Yeah.
You've got so many good two-handers. Have you noticed that pattern in your career? Have you noticed that?
I have not, but I'll take it.
I
love a two-hander.
You do? Lily and Kat, like Mary, there's so many.
Yeah.
There's so many. Where can everybody find you and follow along and we can hear all this fun news as it happens in real time?
On Instagram, I'm at Jessica_Rothe. I don't really ever use Twitter. I'm sure I have a Twitter handle. But yeah, Pulse is out right now, which is really exciting. Virgin River season 7. Sarah's going to appear again. I did 3 indies at the end of last year: Affection, Imposters, and then Titan, which is a big snake movie. So those hopefully will be seeing the light of day soon. But yeah, it's all
just keep going. Just keep on going.
Yeah, just keep on going, everyone. You got it.
Like
the other thing to remember is we're all doing it together. And if you go into an audition and you feel nervous, just know probably every other person who went in also feels nervous. So the playing field is so unlevel in so many ways, but in so many ways, it's like the most level it's ever been because we're all just trying to figure it out.
Yeah. And sometimes we're doing it really well and sometimes we're not. But it will always be in a wave. If you pay attention. Just hold on.
Try. Just hold on. Just try.
How
just
many other like people things we can say? Like this is the day.
Yeah, this is the day.
Audition.
Be that cat on the thing. But truly, just keep putting drops in the bucket. That is the one thing I'll say. Just keep putting drops in the bucket. And because that's something you can control.
Thank you for doing that.
Thank you so much. This was delightful.